We are 5 months into the release of Overwatch 2, and Blizzard is still working at the matchmaking. But some of it is happening blind because they need to rely on our feedback to pinpoint some of the issues. There must be a better way. Let's find out. Hey guys, I'm James from the Omnic Post. Before we start, I need to warn you that this video is the result of me thinking out loud. I do that sometimes. I'll just be wondering what if, and then suddenly I find myself making videos like this one. But anyways, the last few weeks, matchmaking has been a hot topic. The Overwatch 2 matchmaking has been broken since launch, putting master players in groups with silver players, and thus ruining the experience for everybody involved. And as it goes with these types of systematic problems, they quickly become the scapegoat for everything. At this point, people just love blaming matchmaking for a loss, which isn't always the case. And that by itself also adds to the problem, an already very complicated problem. I've said this many times before, matchmaking is a challenge in any game, and especially in Overwatch with all the classes, the different heroes, the different playstyles. It takes some intelligent people, way more intelligent people than I am, to get it to work. And it needs time, not only time for them to figure out the issues, but also time for the system to settle down, which are a lot of things that they haven't managed to figure out at this point. Currently they are still struggling to find people from the same level to face off against each other. Basically the basics. But Blizzard is working really hard to solve the issue. They have been doing daily updates using the hotfix tool, and some bigger fixes are expected to be included in the future patches. The thing is, with every update that they do, it is really hard for us, the players, to measure the advancement. Did they actually improve it? We have so many different stories going around. And while the development team most likely has better tools and better methods to kind of pull all of that, to monitor the progress that they're making, I still feel like they're sailing blind to a certain extent. That's why they keep asking us for input on the games to report when we see a matchmaking issue. And you know what? That kind of makes sense. This is one of those instances where people say that it is like looking for a needle in a haystack. And the more people you have looking for that needle, the more subscribers that needle might get. Wait, no, I'm mixing up my problems, sorry. Just make sure to subscribe. But see, that is just the thing. Sure, there are going to be some people that are going to be very vocal about their experience in Overwatch. They'll be all over social media. But most of us, well, we just complain against our friends and we kind of move on. Or give up. And those that are actually talking to the team often do so through a filter of frustration. And as I just highlighted, bias. A negative outcome of a match will be attributed to matchmaking, while it is just a normal loss. I mean, sure. It definitely happens. So at this point it becomes a matter for the team to assess all of this feedback that they're getting. And then they need to kind of pinpoint or connect that feedback to a certain match. And they need to find out what the issue was in that match. That is a lot to figure out. And that by itself will slow down progress and make their job so much harder. But what if we could shortcut that whole process? What if they could get that input from us without us having to reach out to them? Now, I've talked about this in previous videos. I currently work in the gaming industry, but I do have a history in UX, user experience. I actually used to teach UX. I actually used to teach UX to the person that is editing this video right now. Hi, Peter. And one of the things that we used to teach, or that I used to do as a UX designer, was to look at the user's behavior and to use that as a tool to figure out what might be the problem with our application's website, whatnot. Now, of course, it was sometimes really easy when people just got stuck. Then the problem was rather obvious. But I don't think that is what we're looking for in this case. What might be more interesting here is to look at emotional triggers, basically signs of frustration. Now, if we would notice a sign of frustration, we would look at what triggered it. What were they doing before this? What were they trying to achieve? And what were the circumstances? We would dig through those logs to figure out that issue. We CSI the f*** out of those logs. Now with games it is a little more complex. There's a lot more ins and outs, as they say. But on the other hand, there's a lot more behavior to observe. Now, first off, before I continue, I think it is important to understand that there are boundaries to what you can do. For instance, just kind of reading chat and freaking out that way is a big no-no. Privacy issues, nah, you're not going to do that, right? But what the dev team could do is look at player behavior to try and figure out how much fun they're having or had in a certain match. And you could do that by looking at how quickly they leave the match. Are they taking the time to endorse their friends or the people in their team? Are they endorsing the enemy team? Are they switching modes or are they queuing up for a different mode? There's a lot of stuff you can look at that might give you an idea. I mean, in the end, losing will always sting, at least a little bit. But if a player loses a match, sticks around, gives everybody a GG, endorses their teammates and maybe those enemy players, and then just requeues for that same type of match, they probably had an okay time. On the other hand, if after that match a player blocks half of their team, they report the enemy Widowmaker, and they completely shut down the game, well, I think someone needs a Snickers. On top of that, if this is very unusual behavior for that person, yeah, something was definitely wrong. So this way you can figure out the story. But this of course needs tools, resources, it would take a lot of time to develop something like that, and a lot of money. And in the end, you might not have more than just some guesstimates. That all being said, I would be interested to figure out a way to make it all work. I think it is a very interesting case, but I'm not on their payroll. So, and on top of that, I think there is an easier way to fix that or to get that information. Back in the early days of mobile apps, yeah, I'm that old, we used to have a rating system where we would ask our users at random times if they were enjoying the application. If they would answer yes, I am, we would send them off to the App Store for a review. If they say I am not, then we would ask them what the problem was. It is a bit of a cheeky approach. Now some apps still do that, but not a lot, because it is in the end rather intrusive. So that by itself will taint your result. And on top of that, because you're asking it at random times, you kind of lose all context. But in Overwatch, it's different. We have this one moment at the end of the game where everybody kind of thinks back what happened during those last 10 minutes. And where we take the time to celebrate our victory or mourn our loss. We'll see a GG in chat. We'll see an endorsement vote going out. But what if Blizzard would add something to that screen that allowed us to kind of rate the match, the game, the experience we just had? And preferably with a very simple gesture. Maybe a thumbs up or a thumbs down, a high five, or a heart. And to boot, we get 50 XP. How about that? Sure, there's always going to be toxic votes, and not everybody is going to care about voting. It is not going to be perfect, but it is pretty easy to do, and it solves one important issue, which is basically the point of this whole video. If Blizzard wants to know if they managed to make our game into a fun experience, even if we lost, and if they want to know if their matchmaking is working out, they need to give us a way to communicate that to them, and preferably as easy as possible. Now, if we could find a way to combine the first and the second idea, well, we would be rolling, I think. I mean, like I said, I'm thinking out loud at this point, but I think it's something to research, something to discuss. It is interesting. But tell me, would you vote at the end of your match? And have you ever reached out to Blizzard to let them know what your experience was? Let me know in the comments. Join me during my streams on twitch.tv/DamesIsTV and make sure to subscribe for more updates on Overwatch.